In Ontario as well, you can have them on the taxpayer dollar, right? You get the taxpayer to pay for this. You can have them fashion you a vagina and keep your penis. So there you go. Where would you like your vagina? Ooh, classy, right? This is wonderful. I hope Doug Ford crushes this with a notwithstanding clause. Honestly, basically what happened is a person wanted an experimental gender surgery, meaning like this is crazy Dr. Moreau, Island of Dr. Moreau stuff. And the government said, we're not going to pay for that. And he took them to court saying, it's my identity. You have to pay for it. So I can't wait to have the attack helicopter rotors installed, right? Inspector Gadget style, right? In my hat. A 12-year-old girl in Muskoka was given a t-shirt. This is 100% true. She was given a t-shirt as a prize that says, I enjoy being a dyke. For real. At a conference on Pink Day, I think it was April 2nd, but they were celebrating Pink Day. And the conference was sold to parents as a leadership conference. I don't know that the parents knew that they were going to be handing out like shirts that said, I enjoy being a dyke, and giving it to 12-year-olds. Holy smokeronies. And they have a new movie out, Wag the Dog 2, We Never Went to the Moon. So it's pretty interesting. We're going to look at the trailer for that at the end of the show today. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We have to start with Justin Trudeau and China. And this is a big, big deal. I don't know that it's enough because Jagmeet Singh is purposely not understanding how big a deal this is. He's walking away from the carbon tax because I guess it's unpopular. But he's not going to drop this government. He's not going to initiate an election because he's going to lose big time. The polls say he's going to keep 18 seats, but I don't know. I would be surprised if he retained that many seats because there's going to be backlash. People aren't going to be happy. And oftentimes the party that props up an unpopular main party, like the Liberals are unpopular now, often loses big time in an election following because why vote for them if they're just going to prop up these idiots anyway? Right. Nick Leaf says, Trudeau doesn't read long security briefings. He doesn't think about monetary policy, and he had to bribe Singh with $27 billion for his wish list to stay in power. So what exactly does Justin Trudeau think about, or do? So the Toronto Sun's headline was too long, didn't read. I thought that was kind of funny. Here is Brian Lilly. He says, Trudeau dodged and weaved on the witness stand, telling the inquiry he doesn't read briefing memos, a statement that completely contradicts his chief of staff. So that's uncomfortable, right? And that was part of the joke yesterday. Here's Pierre Poilievre making his own funnies about all of this, and here we go.
We're investigating is whether a foreign dictatorship interfered in our democracy in multiple elections to help him win. A communist dictatorship seeking to keep in office someone who said he admires that communist dictatorship. But his defense actually speaks for itself. The Prime Minister was asked why he didn't do anything about this interference, even though he was warned in briefing notes, is that he doesn't read briefing notes. Now, we often don't believe the things that this guy says, but I think that most Canadians would believe that defense.
Right? So Poilievre is getting laughs and making fun of Justin Trudeau and saying, that's very believable because he's kind of lazy, right? And most people would believe that he didn't read the briefing notes because really, right? He seems unprepared most of the time. Scott says, let's be very clear. Intelligence is not raw data that the Prime Minister gets to call into question. It's a professional assessment based on multiple sources of data. Moreover, the assessment is reviewed at all levels with comments added to ensure its integrity. Here's the CBC article talking about Justin Trudeau saying it's his job to question CSIS. Prime Minister Trudeau said Thursday he feels it's part of his job to question and call out what he referred to as contradictions in intelligence prepared for the federal government. His comments Thursday followed his closely watched testimony at the public inquiry into foreign election interference the day before, which is trying to work out what the government knew about claims that China and other countries meddled in the past two federal elections. During his testimony Wednesday, Trudeau disputed intelligence gathered by CSIS, one of the pillars of Canada's national security infrastructure. If it's that in the RCMP, if those are the pillars, then we got a problem. Back to this quote. You have to take this intelligence, says Trudeau. You have to take this information with a certain awareness that it still needs to be confirmed or it might not be 100% accurate. huh? This is about hearing that Han Dong was under investigation by CSIS. And he says, yeah, we'll keep him on. I mean, I'm being very critical. I'm critically thinking here that CSIS doesn't know what it's talking about. I know Han Dong. During a media availability Thursday, Trudeau was asked by a reporter whether Canadians should trust CSIS given his remarks. The Prime Minister said he respects the Canadians who work in national security. But no government, no leader should simply be a passive receiver of information and intelligence, he said. We have a role to play in asking questions, on thinking critically, encouraging further work on questioning sources and pulling out contradictions. That's actually part of and parcel of the work that we all need to do to make sure that everything is done to keep Canadians safe. Right. It's really interesting. You're not a spy, Justin, right? And if you're the Prime Minister, you don't have the time to be, up on all of the things that maybe CSIS would be up on. But if they come to you and say, hey, there's all of these candidates that we're concerned about, up to 11, up to 13, and then you bring that up to Xi Jinping in a really unusual way, which we'll get to in just a second, it seems like you knew you had confidence in that data at some point, right? And you can't just say, well, I didn't tell the Canadian citizens, the population of Canada, because I didn't want to, or because I wasn't sure about the data. CSIS was sure enough to bring it to Justin, so why wasn't he able to share it with Canadians? He brought it up to Xi Jinping. Peter Menzies says, I'm still trying to figure out, understand the strategy behind publicly telling our Five Eyes, NATO, and other allies that CSIS can't be trusted. Yeah, good point. Terry Glavin says, you have to hand it to Beijing's overseas influence operators. They've played the long game. Their elite capture strategy has worked. Elite capture is capturing the elite leaders or high-placed individuals within a country. Elite capture. So they work for China. And I mean, that can be municipal, right? They work for China through Bloomberg and the climate initiatives that are bankrupting this country. They work for China at the federal level through Justin Trudeau and Han Dong and all of that network, right? The network that doesn't necessarily work together, according to the testimony we heard the other day. Wink. Sure. That's how you describe a network. A bunch of individual people working individually by themselves in a network. Oh, right. So elite capture, right? And provincially, I'm sure there's elite capture at play. Vancouver and British Columbia, right? All of the British Columbia apparatuses, all of the institutions there look captured to me, as somebody sitting here in my garage in Ontario, definitely look captured from all the news reports I've read. Oh, we've got this guy dead to rights on money laundering, and it fell apart. And we've got him again, dead to rights on money laundering, and it fell apart. So, right, there's all sorts of indications that it's captured. It's captured from the judiciary to the Senate to the politicians running things and creating these policies, right? So it's interesting. Elite capture working, right? And now we've announced to our Five Eyes allies, kind of. They bought subs and they cut us out of the sub deal. And now we're totally looking for nuclear subs. Sure we are. But our Five Eyes allies now know CSIS is completely unreliable. Justin Trudeau knows better, right, Mr. Bond? Here's Mulclair, and he's pointing out the problems with LeBlanc, and if Trudeau's advisors bragged about him confronting China's Xi Jinping about foreign interference at the G20 meeting, if it was credible enough to confront Xi, why did he not do anything domestically? Right. Let's go back very quickly before Mulclair. This is November 17th, 2022. This is CBC, and it says why Xi Jinping publicly rebuked Justin Trudeau and what it means for relations with China. And hold on. According to the readout during the brief discussion between the two leaders, so the readout was released by the Trudeau government, and Xi was pissed that he released it. But according to the readout, between the two leaders who have been at odds over trade, China's arrest and detention of two Canadians, Michael Spavor and Michael Korvik, and Canada's arrest and detention of Meng Wanzhou, that's it. I'm always getting that wrong. Trudeau raised concerns about media reports that China covertly funded 11 candidates in the 2019 federal election. So media reports? You don't confront Xi Jinping based on media reports, right? At the G20. Right? Our media is talking about this, Mr. Jinping. This is the same as the Twitter diplomacy stuff. So Tom Mulclair is calling this out and saying if he's got enough to go to Xi, then he should have done something.
Yeah, so they know that it's a weak spot. He was trying to cover it.
Oh, sorry. Too fast. He talks slow though.
Yeah. He was clear enough in his mind and in the briefings, and he went through long explanations about how you have to make sure that the information is rock solid. He goes up to the president of China in November 2022 on the sidelines of the G20 meeting in Bali, Indonesia, and his staff brags, and Trudeau doesn't deny, that he had been giving him what for Chinese government interference in Canadian elections. Now, he soft-pedaled that yesterday. It was, well, I talked to him about interference in our democratic processes. He tried to downplay it a bit, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you didn't have credible information and then say that you had enough credible information to go and talk and give heck to the leader of one of the most important countries in the world, one of the most powerful men in the world. It doesn't wash.
That makes sense, right? Like, would you confront somebody like Xi Jinping based on media reports, right? The Toronto Sun says, right? And I've heard that the media reports are all paid off by Justin Trudeau anyway. So they're saying what he wants them to say for the most part. So Trudeau goes up to Xi based on that and nothing else? Sure. Matt says, Justin's mad. He's thinking this is not what I pay the media for. The walls are closing in on this disingenuous person. I think that's true. Yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine and I said, man, like, it seems like everything's collapsing down around Trudeau. Everything that he's tried to accomplish, people are saying, you know what? I don't think so. And you're an idiot. Also a really big idiot. And so puppet, but also idiot. And so Justin's mad. So he's asked by the reporter, and the question is good. The question is long, kind of a couple of questions building on each other. Like, don't you bear some responsibility? Building trust is incumbent on, like, the first step rests with you, so on and so forth. And Justin Trudeau starts it and ends it by saying, I'm still caught up that you think I didn't tell people about Chinese interference. He not misses the point, but he's not interested in answering questions. He's just mad. Here we go.
Canadians to build trust. But as Mr. Johnston report makes clear, you had intelligence and you were briefed on an attempt by Beijing to meddle in our democracy, and you didn't tell the public. Given that, doesn't rebuilding trust have to start with you? And going forward, do you have to create a better disclosure regime that discloses these sorts of attempts to meddle in our democracy, even especially when it benefits your party?
Sorry, Justin, I'm still hung up on the fact that you think I wasn't telling Canadians about foreign interference.
Has anybody told him about the CSIS leaks? I mean, it seems like it's a big deal, right? Like, oof, right? Wow. You think I didn't tell people about the Chinese interference? Yeah, we think you didn't. And then we think you vilified. You then hired Johnston to run cover for you. And then you did a commercial for his modular home company. It's pretty wild. Dusty Rose says, it seems like not that long ago that Justin Trudeau used our money to pay his buddy to lie for him about foreign interference in our elections. Remember all the deep state Laurentians on here from all sides who immediately told us how honorable Johnston was. Out of Canada, or Order of Canada, blah, 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 crazy times. And I responded to this guy and I said, it goes actually further than that. There's a little bit more context to this whole thing. Same guy, Johnston, got Trudeau to do an advertisement for his modular home company. You could look at it like this. Justin Trudeau does something stupid and calls his friend Johnston for help. Johnston says he can help, but only if he's made whole for that help. Justin agrees. Johnston decides that China interference, not so big a deal, no problems, and we're going to just redact and hide all of this stuff under the rug here because it's quite conveniently placed. Now do an advertisement for my modular home company, and Justin does, right? So tit for tat, you scratch my back, I'll put your things under this carpet here and nobody will talk about it. Everybody wins except the Canadian public who've been screwed by two liars, right? Seems like that's what's going on, and nobody seems upset about it. And that's weird, right? That's strange to me. Holly Doan says Prime Minister Trudeau testifies it wasn't appropriate to expel Han Dong from the Liberal caucus, though he was under security surveillance. Trudeau says he assumed Elections Canada would determine whether the MP had contacts with foreign agents. So, hey, if you get a call from CSIS about one of your candidates, don't you think that that's maybe not necessarily a firing offense, but maybe a firing offense? Don't you think that's a big deal? I think that's a big deal. Here's Andy Lee. She's responding to herself, and she says, the real question is what CSIS Director Vinod, handpicked by Trudeau, will do today. at the inquiry. Now that we know the truth about the irregularities in Han Dong's nomination, which were allowed by the Prime Minister, will he save Trudeau or will he save the reputation of CSIS? So we'll see. We'll see. I'll tell you tomorrow, right? We'll find out what he says. Terry Glavin says in 2017, the Financial Times got a hold of a training manual issued to the United Front Works Group that said 6 of its candidates were elected in the GTA in 2003, and in 2006, 10 out of its 44 favored candidates won elections to public office. So they're trying to interfere. United Front is Chinese communists, right? And so they're successful, and they have records on how successful they are. So Chinese interference that Justin Trudeau either facilitates or turns a blind eye to where he benefits, but then warns his candidate that CSIS is investigating him, but doesn't warn an opposition member or a different party member's candidate, Michael Chong, about China targeting him and targeting him for, not winning, right? Like, you're not the target of the money bomb, right? Like, So it's very, very interesting to me. All of this, is one okay and the other okay too? Like, is it okay that he ignored the CSIS warnings, that he warned Han Dong about it independently? Is it okay that he didn't warn Michael Chong, right? And those two things together paint a different picture, I think. I think it's very, very poor. I think it looks bad on Justin Trudeau. And I can't believe that more people aren't upset about it, I guess. Even the news doesn't really seem upset about it. Blacklock's reporter says whole point of election monitors was to track Russia in contact with conservatives, not Chinese in contact with liberals. Karina Gould tells Chinese Inquiry the primary focus was really on Russia. The Russia boogeyman is manufactured, made up, because Russia is not living under the NWO. Russia is what happens if you are a country that self-governs and doesn't ascribe to the international banking and the bankers, right? And so I was talking about how Brazil, under Lula, they're doing climate stuff and they're doing all this stuff that the SWIFT countries want, although Brazil is BRICS, isn't it? But they're playing ball with all the climate change stuff. And Chrystia Freeland was saying, if you don't do carbon taxes, if you don't do this climate change plan, then nobody's going to do business with you. And I believe that she's correct about that, because that's exactly what Soros wants. That's what Klaus wants. They want to have an economic hegemony, like an economic single system, to force everybody to give over tax the air, tax the land, tax the water, poison the air, poison the land, poison the water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they've been getting away with it for a very long time, and they're kind of pissed that they're not getting away with it still. But the monitoring of the election is absolutely not done in order to maintain election integrity. It's done to find a bad guy to blame, right? And Russia was supposed to be that bad guy, because I just explained why. Larry Brock says, Canadians deserve the truth from Justin Trudeau and his government, and Conservatives will make sure he provides it. Liberal Party member informed a Liberal candidate and now MP that Canada's spy agency was monitoring him. Only Trudeau's top officials would have access to this information. Has Justin Trudeau referred this matter to the RCMP? Motion to investigate. So there's a motion to investigate this situation. And do you think that that's going to go anywhere? It should, but my goodness. Here's Andy Lee reminding us as well. The CSIS leaks state that these children, so students in University of Waterloo and other places, may have been manipulated into voting under threat of losing their status, and that this was all allegedly coordinated by the PRC consulate. Revolting. Recall every official who acted like they didn't know about the school or what was happening there. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff if you ask me. The whole China interference thing seems to be getting worse, but I still don't know if it's enough. It seems Justin Trudeau is standing in a palace that is collapsing around him, right? The rubble you can look around and see it, like the last episode of Harry Potter, how Hogwarts looks there. You can see it's kind of, destroyed and stuff. And he's acting like everything's just fine. It's really, really weird. Jagmeet Singh distances himself from the carbon tax. I laughed when I read this article, almost as much as I laughed when I read the article about the shirt being sent home with the kid. I enjoy being a dyke shirt. In Muskoka. Unbelievable. Robert Fife says, Jagmeet Singh backpedals on consumer carbon tax. And he doesn't call it a tax, he calls it a levy, because people don't know that a levy is a tax, but a levy is just a tax. Same thing. Jagmeet Singh backpedals on consumer carbon levy, says the Toronto Star, distances NDP from support for Justin Trudeau's policy. Sure. The federal New Democrats no longer believe a consumer carbon price is necessary to fight climate change, Jagmeet Singh suggested Thursday. The new position, which appears to break with the NDP's previous support for the policy, was outlined in a speech Singh delivered at the Broadbent Institute's annual policy conference in Ottawa on Thursday. In it, he distanced his party from the federal Liberals' flagship climate policy, which has drawn criticism from across the country as the levy and its accompanying rebates increased this April. Singh condemned the approaches of both Prime Minister Trudeau and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to the climate crisis and said tackling it can't be done by letting working families bear the cost of climate change while big polluters make bigger and bigger profits. Referring to a March report that concluded industrial carbon pricing systems were far more effective than consumer pricing tax on fuel, Singh told reporters that New Democrats, quote, want more attention on the policies that are the biggest drivers of lowering emissions, such as the industrial price on pollution and methane regulations. He said the NDP would release its own climate plan. Oh, I can't wait for that. That's going to be excellent reading. Sure. The funny thing is, I think that it is interesting that Jagmeet Singh is saying we're going to put the carbon tax on industries and industrial polluters. That will make goods more expensive. In exactly the same way the carbon tax on transportation has made food more expensive. It's not a good idea. It's a bad idea. And the carbon tax is a hoax anyway. The climate change, all of it, it's a hoax anyway. We need to shut this down, not rejig into a different configuration of taxing carbon that's more amenable to the people right now, right? And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to find an argument that people agree with to continue taxing us. And we need to say, no, absolutely not. In fact, there's a climate zealot who attacks. There was a conference yesterday, a conservative conference, and they shout this person down and they drive them out. And we'll watch that because that's all we need to do with the climate change stuff. Every time somebody proposes something that's crazy and climate change culty, just ignore them and then clap them or drown them out. Which is exactly what they were trying to do to the left, or to the right, excuse me, except they were trying to use censorship tools, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying to censor them necessarily, right? The idea has been tried, it's failed, it's proven to fail, it's false, and it causes harm. So with all of that, if they're not willing to listen to reason, with all of that laid out, and they don't have an argument that can actually back up their claims, right? Versus our claims of it being harmful and not effective, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then at a certain point, the conversation breaks down and you are at an impasse. And then what do, right? So I think what the Conservatives did actually worked pretty well. And I think that Jagmeet Singh trying to shift this to an industrial tax is just trying to evolve the policy to make it palatable for the current group of people who are upset with not being able to afford housing or food or, anything. Pierre Poilievre says 3 weeks ago, Jagmeet Singh voted with his coalition partner Justin Trudeau to hike this costly carbon tax on gas, heat, and groceries by 23%. Now, as his MPs are jumping ship, he's trying desperately to run from his own record. But we won't let him forget, and we won't let him try to fool Canadians. The carbon tax coalition of Singh Trudeau is not worth the cost. Roman Baber says, good morning, Jagmeet. If now you're against the carbon tax, you should drop this Liberal government and give Canadians a say. The Conservatives will win a decisive majority. That would be very interesting if that happened in the short term, because if they do what they say, very quickly the price of gas would drop, and very quickly the inflation would drop, and very quickly the price of groceries would start to drop, and not in a deflationary way, but in an elastic band snapping back kind of way. And so that would be interesting. And again, man, people are going to really like it, and they're going to say, see, we told you, Pierre's for Canada. I hope they're right. I'm skeptical. I hope they're right. Dan Kelly says, pleased to hear the Liberal MP and Parliamentary Secretary Irek reassure the CFIB members that government is absolutely committed to returning $2.5 billion in carbon tax rebates to smaller businesses. As this has been stalled for 5 years and counting, we are counting on progress in next week's budget. See the 1706 mark in this video. So they're expecting money in the next budget, and it's been stalled for 5 years. I mean, if you've been leading somebody on for 5 years, they're probably not going to do what you want them to do. Like, holy cow, move on, man, move on. The money's gone unless, again, the government is dropped and then the new government comes in and then honors that agreement and gives the money back. Would they give all the money back? Does everybody get an honest rebate on all the taxes that we've paid into this nonsense? Stephen Gelbo, this is weak. It's weak, and it's a very ineffective argument. The argument is terrible. He's got 42,000 views and 300 likes. So, like, that's a very bad ratio. Stephen Gelbo says, Polyev denies climate change even exists and wants to let big polluters off the hook with his dangerous agenda that would give them a free pass to continue polluting. He doesn't care about the consequences. He doesn't care if our world burns. Oh, okay. Well, we'll just keep giving you taxes then, and for reasons like that don't do anything. The taxes don't meaningfully change the weather, and they haven't in the 8 years that these people have been trying to convince us that taxes do change the weather. Cat Canada is sharing this. So this is what happened when she says, a lunatic climate crazy crashes Pierre's speech to shout about forest fires. The audience claps back with a chant of axe the tax.
100,000, 400 people, fire the fire!
There you go. So people saying, we're not going to listen to you crazy people. We've tried to explain it. And, but the left would say, we're not going to listen to you crazy right-wingers. We've tried to explain gender and you don't listen, except they're just lying. Like, their version of explaining gender is, why don't you believe in the same cult I believe in? And that's not how things work. Right? Shannon Stubbs, who's an MP, says, today I spoke on Bill C-50, which is the globalist Justin Trudeau or just transition agenda to central plan and restructure Canada's economy, kill 170,000 oil and gas jobs immediately, and hurt the livelihoods of 2.7 million Canadians that work in energy, agriculture, manufacturing, construction, and transportation. This bill is yet another example of this Prime Minister and his anti-energy coalition are just not worth the cost. True. Right? It's very, very true. It's a 10-minute speech, so we're not going to listen to it right now. Ryan Garrett says, what would politicians do without climate change? It's given them an excuse to steal our money, to print new money, to usher in control and totalitarianism, to redistribute wealth, and to force in a one-world government. None of it has to do with climate or forest fires or floods or hot weather. They use those as an excuse to keep it in play. The scheme is diabolical. People now rely on it to make an enormous amount of money. None of them will ever let this grift end until they are next on the elite's chopping block. So yeah, they're incentivized to continue the lie. They're incentivized to keep it going. And it seems like a Ponzi scheme. They want to inhabit or encroach on everything. And the WHO is making the case that, food systems are very climate changey. Here we go.
Our food systems are harming the health of people and planet.
I think that our food systems are feeding 9 billion people, which is not harming anybody. And in fact, we are trying desperately to close the gap between the 9 billion we're feeding and the couple million that are starving. And if we just wholesale change our food system completely because these people are crazy, that's going to get worse, not better. The number of people starving is going to increase, not decrease. Okay?
Food systems contribute to over 30% of greenhouse gas emissions and account for almost 1/3 of the global burden of disease. Transforming food systems is therefore essential by shifting towards healthier, diversified, and more plant-based diets. If food systems delivered healthy diets for all, we could save 8 million lives per year. WHO is committed to supporting countries to develop and implement policies to improve diets and fight climate change. I'm therefore very pleased that over 130 countries have signed the COP28 UAE Declaration on Climate and Health. Together, we can protect and promote the health of both people and planet.
So they're going to introduce bugs because that's climate change. That's a climate change sensitive diet, I guess. Just eat these cockroaches. Yeah, they're everywhere. Here is a drumstick. Do you eat these? I don't eat these. I just like, okay, I live my perfect day every day because that's all you have control over, right? That's all you can do. And so I've designed my perfect day over years. It's taken me probably more than a decade to get to it. But like, that was my goal. I live my perfect day every day. So I don't eat desserts willy-nilly most of the time. I have a dessert. I eat it. I like it. I eat it every day, most days, 90% of the days. Days like Christmas and like Thanksgiving and stuff, I like them and they're fun and all that stuff. But I'm happy to get back to my perfect day the next day. So I don't usually go and have strange drumsticks or anything like that randomly. It's just not something I do. Even if somebody's offering, right? Somebody's got drumsticks and they pull it out of their fridge and it looks really good, right? Look at all the colors and everything like that. I'm not even that worried about it. I'd eat it. Like, whatever. Sure. Give me a drumstick. Sounds fun. Like, they're delicious, right? Sometimes you're driving down the highway or something like that and you walk by the frozen freezer thing and you're like, oh yeah, I'll have one of those. I could do that, but not all that often now. Used to be, right? And so I'm not surprised to see this. But also, what the heck are they putting in our food? Wall Street Ape says, I've seen multiple videos of ice cream not melting right after a few hours, but this video is after 22 hours. So I need to share. After 22 hours, this is what this drumstick ice cream looks like. America, what are they putting in our food? So I don't know that this would happen in Canada. I feel like Chapman's ice cream, because I think that Chapman's is the ice cream they use in here. Although it used to be ice cream. Like Chapman's used to be proudly, like ice cream. And now it's like an iced treat. If you read it, it doesn't say ice cream anymore. It's like iced treat. So what, I don't know what it is, but like it looks, you can see the ice melt out of it, but all the cream is still intact and frozen. It looks frozen, but you can see the water around, and it's water. It doesn't look like milk. It doesn't look like skim milk. I mean, maybe, I guess, but it certainly looks more watery than milky. Here we go.
What you're looking at here is the aftermath of a drumstick ice cream cone that has been sitting out for 22 hours now. I set this out yesterday at 6 or 7 p.m. and it's now 4:23 p.m. the next day. And this is the outcome. If you watch my previous video, you'll see how after about 2 hours, the ice cream didn't melt at all. So this is the outcome after almost 24 hours.
Oh. So that's pretty wild, right? Like, you got to think to yourself, man, what's in our food, right? Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful